Hello and welcome to another edition of Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. If you like this video, please push like and share it with your family, friends, neighbors, enemies, etc. To those of you who are new to this channel in the last week or two, I appreciate it. It is a prison-based channel. I talk about, I have that Mob Monday segment. I talk about other things too, but I usually tell a lot of prison stories in case you don't know. And this is a prison story about a guy named Cody. Now, I'm titling this video, The Lying and Honest Rat, for a reason. First of all, in 2018, I had been down about 21 years. I had already been to a couple maximum securities or USPs. I had been to the Butner complex where I was dealing with cancer, and throughout my whole incarceration, or the 16 years of my incarceration, I dealt with recurring bladder cancer. This story takes place at FCI Terre Haute in Indiana. FCI Terre Haute is actually considered a medical facility. A lot of times in medical facilities, you'll have dropouts or PC cases. Like I always say, let other less desirables in the system. One thing we didn't have there, and they might now, they were trying to integrate them in the last couple of years, was sex offenders. Not to say there was not sex offenders there, but I'm talking about open sex offenders, like at a lot of other prisons nowadays. Sex offenses became like the new crack law. So anybody that downloads an image basically can get 5 years, or, well, the guidelines, it's a whole different issue. But sex offenders are replacing the crack offenders of the 80s and 90s. That's how they're filling up the prisons more and more. That's why there's so many sex offenders. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. It was actually about into 2018 or into 2019 where we got a busload of new guys into the prison. Now, although I was the white rep for M Block, the yard politics I usually try to stay out of. I did the gang politics, up until 2007, from 2001 to 2007. After I got sober the first time, or the second time, 3 years, 7 months, 28 days, I stopped really playing all the reindeer games. Not to say I didn't gamble, not to say I didn't use on and off for different periods. I'm just talking about being part of the compound gossip stuff. I'd stay out of. Plus, I was focused on writing, and I was in a relationship with Marta. So it wasn't, I wasn't the same person I was before, meaning I used to be, used to thrive on that political drama that happens in prison. Anyway, they brought a bunch of new guys in, and the yard was concerned that there might have been a bunch of sex offenders. I was out on the yard one day, walking the track. I did that daily, every morning or afternoon, sometimes a couple times. And there was a bunch of new guys. And some of these guys were, 3 or 4 of these guys came from Michigan. At the time, my friend Nicholas McDougal, who is young, I think he's 26 right now, but looks like a 12-year-old with the little beard, was running the car for Michigan. He was calling the shots, and he was. He called me over to his group of new Michigan guys and introduced me, and tells me, hey, ask him about something about his case, this guy named Cody. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, he said he got 5 years for a conspiracy, blah, blah. In other words, he wanted me to see if this guy's case was fishy. Meaning if he was either a sex offender, lying, or a rat. Now, he kind of did have the sex offenderish look. And what I mean by that is a lot of sex offenders have the frozen face. I believe that it has something to do, a lot of times when somebody's abused as a child, I think they're kind of get frozen that time. I've heard this before. I think I've read something. But anyway, if you've been around a lot of sex offenders on the compound, like I was in the Butner complex, you start seeing a lot of these guys have what's called frozen face. Anyway, this guy Cody kind of had that. He was a little fat kid too. And he was young. When I say young, maybe 30, but he was a younger guy, and he looked like a kid actually. I forgot how the conversation transpired exactly on the yard, but when I came back in, McDougal said, "Rob, I was trying to get you to ask him pry into his case because he said that he was a rat." I'm like, "What? What?" He goes, "Yeah, but he said he didn't testify against nobody. Like that he just told the cops about himself." Okay, so, the truth is, you can throw a rock at Butner, at FCI Terre Haute, and you're going to hit somebody that's probably either an institutional rat or ratted on their case. A lot of informants in the federal system. Any videos I've done in the future that talks about people that can get hurt if they check in or whatever, just know that there are more people that have cooperated than more people that have not. So also at that time, I wasn't in the gang stuff anymore. I didn't care. After doing time at Butner 1, I didn't have that in me no more. We're like, oh, I hate rats. Oh, I hate sex offenders. Well, sex offenders obviously bother everybody, a lot of people. But I didn't care about getting into other people's business so much. I'm not saying there's different times that I didn't for different reasons, but I have lived in kind of a bubble. My bubble was riding in MARTA, and I would engage with a few people. And of course, like I said, I became the white rep of M Block because there was nobody else to do it. That's basically things were getting out of control. That's the only reason. Anyway, some weeks go by, and it's words on the compound. This kid, Cody, the fat kid who says he's a rat, has big money. Big money. I'm talking no problem sending $1,000 to this guy, $1,000 to this guy. So next thing you know, Michigan guys are getting new tennis shoes. Next thing you know, certain guys are getting commissary. Basically, what this kid was doing was paying for protection before he even got extorted. So if anybody wanted something, he'd just give it to him to kind of push the wolves off. And of course, he was on drugs. The drugs he did was Suboxone and K2, but he loved K2. And he would go get, $1,000 worth of the stuff and then give it to like everybody around him and then have no more the next day. So he was definitely being used. He lived in H Block. That was his parent unit. The guy over there who ran things was named Hollywood out of Ohio, good friend of mine. There were things that started happening with the kid Cody, and that is people would give him fake dope, and then he would say, "Hey, this isn't really even K2, it's not getting me high," and he'd say, "Well, you owe me for it anyway." So guys started playing this dude. Once people found out he had so much money, and then he was just sending money all over the place, having his people on the street send money to guys' books, to guys' family members, to guys' girl. It was like game on. On a couple of different occasions, Hollywood had to get involved with some black dudes. Now this guy is white. And finally, it got to a point to where every time Hollywood stepped in to intervene to kind of like save Cody's ass, again, I'm not even sure he should have been saved because he came in as a rat, but whatever. Everybody accepted it. I'll just say that. That's the truth. Every time he stepped in, Cody would then go behind his back and then do something again. So Hollywood, for example, would say, "Hey, okay, pay him, Cody, but don't ever go talk to Cody again." The next day, Cody would be right back there buying fake dope from the guy he bought fake dope from the day before. Just a sucker, for real. Eventually, he went to the hole, and I forgot what the reason was, and he ended up in M Block, where I was the unit rep. What does a unit rep mean? It depends. The biggest task at M Block at the time was cells, white cells. In prison, in certain prisons, guys play that. This is a Latin King cell. This is a white cell. This is a blood cell. This is a GD cell. Okay. When M Block was closed down for a while and we moved back in from C Block to M Block in 2016, there was a lot of white guys in the unit. Then a lot more white guys came to that unit. In one day, we lost like 30 white guys. And the reason, between 20 and 30. And the reason is because they opened up, they changed C block to a Unicor only block. A lot of the guys that were in my unit that were M unit that were white worked in Unicor, so they had to move down to C block, which left a lot of empty or open or just one-man white cells. Now, when that happens, and then they start sending in people that aren't white, it causes problems. These guys need bed space, but yet we're holding down the white cells. And I held them down. There was a point where I had every white cell was a single cell, and that drove black guys and Mexican guys and everybody crazy, because then it started being, well, why are you favoring the white boys? They all got single cells. If a guy, somebody of color went to a counselor or a case manager to try to get a bed move, and the counselor, case manager said no, then they'd say, why all these white guys got single cells? And I get their frustration. It's true, we did. But I only did it, and I was appointing guys' cells to hold down cells. Hey, there was white guys that wanted to cell together, and I'd be like, man, you got to take one for the team. You got to go ahead and get to the cell by yourself, because we have to hold the cell. Well, all of a sudden, there's empty white cells. So when Cody came in, I had mixed feelings. I knew he was starting to be a headache. I knew that guys were just using him. I knew he was this big sucker. And also, I should mention that it came out. First, he said that he was he told on himself and nobody got in trouble. Well, that was when he lied. And this is when he was honest. Somebody showed me his paperwork. I read it and I realized that he had told on somebody, and I confronted him. Didn't tell anybody else. Only because I was asked to look at his paperwork. And he said, yeah, that he did cooperate against somebody. Not only that, he had a Rule 35, which means you can get a sentence reduction after you've been sentenced. But he had a Rule 35 pending because of his cooperation. So then he starts going around and telling everybody, you know what? I lied the first time. I'm honest now. Yes, I did cooperate against somebody, but he did something to me years ago, something of that nature. And once again, nobody batted an eye. Now, why did nobody care? It's because this kid was throwing around so much money that too many people were making profit off him. And not only were guys using him, guys were kicking it with them. Guys were like buddying up with them, walking with them, talking about their families with them. Okay. So he won a bunch of people's trust because he had the money to send. Now, the first thing that happened between me and Cody were he was I had him put in a single cell, and he went and told, I don't know if it was a black guy or it was somebody that was not on white time to move into the cell with him. When I came down, I found out the move was already made. I let him know that if there's white guys that come in, that person has to move, blah, blah, blah. Well, in front of the guy, he had a little attitude towards me. He kind of talked back the way, I didn't go tell him, hey, this is what you got to do. I said, look, guys, this is the deal. You just moved in, Cody, maybe you didn't know. I didn't say it aggressively or try to, bully him out of it. So he kind of got lippy and back at me. And rather than say something to him in front of the guy, I waited and then I went and got him alone. And I, told him, don't ever talk to me that way. I didn't want no problems. I didn't want to fight. But if something happens like that and somebody starts getting out of hand with their mouth, you have to stop it before it starts, or it just keeps progressing. Well, that guy moved out. Now, Cody smokes K2 every single day, all day, and does Suboxone some days. And like I said, you can go to his cell. There was guys that didn't even know him going in his cell and saying, hey, can I get a piece of Suboxone or a piece of K2? And he'd give it to him. So he was known as the guy that, like I said, he was buying friends. He was just trying to, be that guy. He would also give people commissary that wouldn't pay him back, and he wouldn't do nothing about it. So he's really creating a bad situation for himself that way as well. If you're giving somebody something, you can turn your head if they don't pay you back and just not mess with them again. But when it's so many people that are doing it, you're just a punk. You're a sucker. And you can't live like that in prison consistently or for a long time. might work for a while. The next thing that happened was there was a kid that came in from Forest City, I want to say. And he was a white kid that was on black time. Now, let me explain this. Over and over again, I had these white cells to kind of protect and guard, right? Which is all a bunch of bullshit, by the way, but it's prison. That's prison life. Well, over and over again, I kept getting these white youngsters, 30 and under, 35 and under, that were on, quote, black time, or they were in black gangs. That was all, that's been happening over the last 10 years or better. Before, you didn't see that. So now I've got white guys who are white, but they are on black time. And it just gets all so confusing. Anyway, this kid was on black time, but he was a white guy. But he got with Cody, and this kid knew how to move. Actually, he did time in Arkansas. I forgot what they called him now. Another fat kid. But he knew game. He knew how to run game. He knew how to maneuver. He was a shark at some point in prison. So he realized he had the goose with the golden egg. That's Cody with the money. And he wasn't budging. He wasn't going to leave ever. So he also, at some point, got Cody a little bold. And I forgot what the situation what actually happened the first time. But Cody started talking back. One of the first things to start doing was not giving everybody dope all the time. Again, the guy that moved into his cell had him here. So he's like, hey man, fuck these dudes. They ain't your friends. Don't give them nothing. Don't give them nothing. And Cody was easily influenced. And then the kid pulled the card on him. Hey, plus you're hot, you're a snitch. Man, these dudes don't respect you, which he was right. They're just using you. So, I'm trying to help you, bro. That's what he was saying, but he was just trying to suck him dry. So now Cody's not giving everybody everything that they want. And now there's a little bit of restlessness. Hey, that dude's a rat, right? So now people are well, isn't he a snitch on his case? Now everybody wants to start making a fuss out of it, right? The next thing that happened was Cody's money either ran out, whatever happened on the street. Family members get tired of it, my family included. When you're using drugs in prison, and drugs can be expensive, and you're having families send money to different addresses all the time, they're not stupid. You're doing this for something. Now, there are guys that send money for stamps because stamps is the institutional currency, and you can buy things cheaper in prison with stamps. A lot of Italian guys do that. A lot of richer guys do that. That's technically considered an infraction against the rules, but a lot of people do that. So, if somebody's asked you to send money to somebody's address on the street, doesn't necessarily mean they're on drugs. So Cody's family at some point said no more, or we're going to stop, started threatening not to send money. So now they started slow playing. So if Cody owed somebody and say, yeah, your money will be there in an hour, now the money's not getting there for 2 or 3 days. Now people are finding out that Cody's doing this not with this person, but with 5 or 6 people. And the amount of money he owed was like minimum $500 all the way up to $7,000. $7,000. The fan just went on. I hope you guys can hear me. Damn, I thought I turned it off. Anyway, so the money gets paid, and then everybody gives him more shit, and it all starts over again. So now he's up. This is a month later. Now he owes this guy $8,000, this guy $2,000, and then these guys come to me and say, hey, listen, what's up with this dude Cody? I go down there and I'm like, man, why would you guys, everybody knows he's a rat. Why would you guys mess with him? Well, he's good business. So one day what he's going to do is get drugs, go bring him to the officer, and that money that he's sending you, it's going to link you and you're going to be busted for dealing him drugs. That's what's going to happen. I told everybody that. And I didn't make a secret out of it. Like when he started becoming a problem, like I started saying, what did you expect? If you pick a snake up and put him in your pocket and the snake bites you, that's your fault, not the snake's fault. He's a snake. So you can see Cody was starting to get slippery. When you get wet, when there's a problem, you get slippery when wet. So again he pays off these bills, and a month or so goes by too later. We're in COVID times now, and during COVID, let me tell you, there was so much K2 in that prison. Everybody was a K2 dealer. Everybody had sheets of K2. And if you don't know, Something like that. I don't know if you can see it. That's even big. Is $5. Guys are making $20,000 a month selling K2 in one block. So it's COVID. We're all locked down all day long, every day. Cody's in there with his little celly, and they're just freaking frack, getting high. Guys are coming to the door and just dropping Cody off drugs. And then it comes time to pay the money. Now it's even slower. Now I got black dudes, and not only black, other nationals coming to me and saying, what's up with Cody? And I'm like, man, okay, I'm gonna go down there one time. I went down there, and Cody told me, well, look, so I'll talk to him, but see, I'm not on white time no more. That's what he told me. I'm not on white time. In other words, stay out of my business. I'm not on white time. I said, you're not on white time. I said, since when? He said, my celly got me. He apparently was prospecting for some gang. I'm not going to put the gang out there. It's a well-known gang, but all of a sudden he's not on white time. He's on this certain gang time. And I said, oh, really? Okay. So you're leaving this cell. This is a white cell. It's for white guys, not white guys who think they're something else on different time. That's what I said. Okay. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm just saying what I said. And within 48 hours, I had moved. We had an administration in M Block, counselor, case manager, unit manager, that dealt with reps. Too many guys would come bother them for cell moves, which that's good and bad. Yeah, that gave me the power to move people, and yes, you know, you get advantages, a good progress report, whatever the deal is. But that also comes with a lot of headaches. You know, it was a freaking headache. So they only would move people if the reps came, and give them a piece of paper called the cop out to do the cell move. So I had him moved. I had that cell empty, which posed a whole nother problem because the black guys wanted to move into it, and I almost got into it with them over that. Just a bunch of BS, a bunch of senseless bullshit. So Cody comes to me after we went through all this and says, hey, Rob, I got a shot for K2, and I'm going to go back for Rule 35, which is a cell introduction, and I don't want this shot on my record. I know you do disciplinaries. I know you're good at appeals. Will you do it for me? And I said, absolutely not. He said, well, why not? And I said, look, if you came to this prison and I saw your paperwork and knew you were hot, rat, snitch, cooperator, whatever, man, I wouldn't have said nothing. If you would have just stayed to yourself and stayed in the corner I wouldn't have busted you out. There's a whole bunch of rats here. But you chose to rear your head and play God. So I'm not doing it. And he says, I'll give you $1,000. Ding, 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 sold my soul for a jelly roll. I said, really, you're gonna give me $1,000 to do this one appeal? And actually, he had a winning issue. No bullshit. I'm good at DHO appeals. Anything disciplinary, administrative related, and the Bureau of Prisons, I'm good. So I said, all right, when you send me the money, I'll do it. Well, he said, okay. Then he'd come back a couple days later, look, I got to pay so-and-so off and so-and-so off. I'm stopped using drugs. I'm not going to get high no more. Also, I should say this. He always was going to stop, and he used to cry a lot. So he came to me and confided in me sometimes. Other things than what I just talked about. He came to me and man, I'm spending too much money, blah, blah, blah. And he would cry, like tears. And I'd just look at him like, you big old pathetic fat boy, get some nuts or whatever. But I didn't say that. I usually said, it's hard, stop, blah, blah, blah. I kind of give him the pep talk. I did. And then he would just go get high again. But he had that celly that wouldn't let him stop for real. Cody came to me and said, look, the deadline on his appeal was in a couple days. My dad's going to send you the money 2 weeks from now or whatever. At that point, I said, this guy's never going to pay me. If I believe what he just said, then I'm going to take it personal, and then I'm going to be forced to do something to him. I'm going to eat on it and eat on it. I haven't got into any fights in a long time. I was trying to keep my record clean. I had a compassionate release pending. But if he like blatantly said that to me and lied, then it would become maybe more, it would have became more personal. I don't think I'd have been able to handle it. Maybe. So I made a decision right there. I said, okay, I'm not going to get paid, but I wanted to win this appeal too. I loved beating appeals. I loved having DHO, disciplinary hearing officer, DHO appeals overturned. I loved it. So I went into it with my eyes wide open, believing that I would not get paid. A couple weeks go by, the appeal's in. I don't even ask him about the money. A couple more weeks go by, here comes a whole bunch of other dudes. Hey Rob, I gotta talk to you, man. Hey man, your boy Cody. No, he's not on white time, he's on gang time. Go deal with him. But they'd still cry about it, you know? Something's gotta be done. And I'm like, man, ain't nobody gonna do nothing to that dude. He's got too much money. He's bought everybody off. Everybody sold their soul. So it's not worth the conversation. Some more time goes by. He comes to me and he says, that money's gonna be there tomorrow, Rob. I'm sorry I was late. And I'm sending you another $200. I said, I don't want the $200. As a matter of fact, I don't want $1,000. Send me half. Send me half. I don't, it's not about the money. I didn't tell him that, but I just said, send me half. He didn't send half. Didn't speak to me. Now we're in COVID, we're locked down. I see him every day, you know, but I'm not saying nothing. A couple weeks go by again. Here, more guys are complaining about money. Cody comes to me and says, I'm sending you the money today. And I said, listen. Don't tell me that no more. I don't want your money. He's like, what do you mean that you don't want your money? And I said, I don't want it. Because if you tell me that and you don't do it again, there's going to be a fucking problem. This is what I said. And I think I was also in a bad mood that day, to be honest. He said, no, I got you. I promise, I swear. And I'm sending 1,000. Told him, don't send 1,000, send me 500. Money didn't come. The next day, I got out for shower. I went down to his cell and I said, check this out, you little, and beep, bleep, 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 punk. I will hurt you, bleep, 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 punk. Da, da, da. And his little friend is up there watching. I walk off. I tell him to keep his money, and I tell him that when his appeal comes, if we didn't win at that level, I'm throwing it away. F him, blah, blah, blah. So, here comes certain gang members that he's supposedly prospecting for or has become whatever. Again, I'm not going to put that gang out there because this was guys in this unit doing this, and it's not going to be a reflection on this major gang. The guy comes to me, who I know, and says, hey man, I heard you got a problem with my boy Cody. I know this dude. I said, yeah, you did, blah, blah. And he says, well, look, don't do nothing to him, man. That dude's ours, blah, blah, blah. Now that makes me, when he said, don't do nothing to him, I said, check it out. I understand that he just joined in with you guys. I said, I don't give a fuck. And I said, if I want to do something to that guy, I'm going to do something. I don't care who's going to say no. Now this guy goes and tells all these other guys that he owes money to, and these guys all come to me like they're pressing. One guy came at me with like an attitude, like basically saying, if you do something, I'm going to do something to you. One person. Everybody else is kind of like talking me out of it, saying that he owes too much money, blah, blah, blah. And this was making me more mad. This was making me now want to go hurt this kid, for real. And you know what? Let me say this too. This was a fat, doughboy, whiny kid. But I had a friend who's my age, who's a big guy, who was a predator in the Arkansas Department of Corrections, who I've seen get in 5 fights in Terre Haute. It doesn't back down. Cody and him got into it, and he hit my friend, and my friend hit and busted his head on the toilet. They were both on K2, they were high, but my friend, who's that, I guess we all get soft when we get older, he had something else going on, a case pending, so he didn't want to really retaliate, and they made up a story like that he fell in the in the cell and bumped his head. But Cody actually did that. Hit him in one hit, got a lucky hit and knocked him. So it's not like this kid, I could lose the fight, win the fight. When I say I want to go hurt him, that's the intent I go in there with, and I was pretty sure I could, but anything can happen in fights. I'm not a tough guy, and I've been knocked out by somebody 5'2". Seriously. So, but that, all that doesn't apply when I get this mindset. So now Cody has guys coming after me, and here comes his celly. And his celly says, yeah, man, his celly's trying to be cool to me. And he says, yeah, man, I know what Cody is and stuff, but he's good people underneath it all. And he fucked up once, meaning when he snitched, he fucked up once, but he's going to learn from being. And I said, where's your paperwork? And he said, what? And I said, where is your paperwork? Now, what is paperwork? Paperwork is a judgment and commitment order, your docket sheet, used to be your pre-sentence investigation report, papers that can prove how much time you have, what you're in prison for, and if you really look and know the law, you can tell if they cooperated. This dude who just said Cody learned from his mistakes, red flag, he's a hot for sure. He's a rat for sure. Again, you got to remember, I don't care about these rats and snitches all over this prison and other prisons at this point. But now they're like trying to insult me. Now they brought this to me, and I was in my feelings about it. And for whatever, right or wrong, it's the truth. I said, go get his, he said he didn't have none. I said, you didn't have none. So I pulled up his gang brothers who just put Cody in the gang, and I said, so let me get this straight. You guys don't check paperwork on new recruits. You guys don't check paperwork on guys that just came in this prison. That's a thing. Especially in gangs, especially in if you're in prison politics, you're supposed to check paperwork, all right? Bunch of BS, but whatever, that's how it is, that's prison culture. So I made these guys look foolish, and they got upset. And when they got upset, now I realized that I could possibly be into with this dude. I said, oh, I gotta go touch this kid up. And again, I have a compassionate release pending. I'm trying to go home. I went down to his cell, that he locked the door early. They popped out for half an hour. He locked the door early. I cussed him out, which I should have never done. Called him every little thing in the book. And I told him that he can bring his sister, that was his other friend. He can bring his sister and bring knives and come in my cell with just me. That's what I said. Probably would have got smashed, me. Could have got wrecked. But that's how I was feeling. That's what I meant, and that's what I said. The following day was commissary, early in the morning. Cody checked in, went into protective custody. He owed a bunch of money, but I believe, and so did almost everybody, it was me threatening him because I was, my eyes got bugged out. I was dead serious. Whatever reason he did. Now, he left that compound owing over $10,000. And there was guys that were upset with me. But anytime they were, I'm like, he was a rat. That's the card. He was a rat. What do you guys? He was a rat. So there's nothing they can say at that point, especially guys that are in gangs. You guys pulled somebody that first lied and said, yes, I'm a rat, but I just told him about myself. Then he amended it and got honest, became the honest rat, and said, hey, by the way, no, I did take a person out, and I got to go back to court, and I'm going to get some time off. Maybe he had to go testify against him. And everybody still turned their head. Staff came to me and said, Cody asked me if he can come back out on the compound. That means he wants to check back out. Like was Rich Carl, you can check in, you can check out, and that happens in prison a lot too. A lot of guys check in because they owe money, and then they'll stay there, they'll get their money, or they'll just dry up, and then they'll come back on the compound, and nobody cares. Depends on the prison. And And that's all right. If that's what everybody in prison is doing, if nobody cares about snitches and sex offenders, like at Butner 1, which was a prison that I did like, then that's cool. But when you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, if that's the kind of prison you're in. You can't say, oh, we hate rats and we have to check paperwork, but we can let this guy go because he's paying everybody. Of course, when they came to me and said, can he come back out on the compound? I always say yes, even if I'm plotting on that guy to go hit him. One time in my life, I told staff not to let somebody out, and that basically put me in like a rat position in prison. That's considered telling in prison. Actually, it was when I was running the Dirty White Boys, and my number 2 guy, or my right-hand man, we had actually a conversation. But anyway, it's a whole different story. But yeah, I did that once. So I said, let him out. Cody came back out, told everybody he was going to send money, told me he'd be up to talk to me. I said, don't you dare come up here and talk to me. Told me he'd be up there to talk to me, said what I said. He then goes and gets a bunch more dope, some strips of Suboxone, cards of K2, cards meaning an ID card, K2. Gets high and checks in again. Burned everybody. Man, I laughed so hard. And I was mean about it. You stupid. That's what you guys get. And you know, I hope I didn't ramble on in this video too much. It's a lot longer than I thought, but I hope I gave you back context. People that don't mind my videos are not gonna have a problem with it. The other people might. I could have said this story shorter, a lot of context with it. I'm just trying to get people inside the mind of prison cultures and explain my mentality, how it's shifted over the years, based on prison, when in Rome, do it how the Romans do it now. In my first 10 years, I would have never said that. I would have never said, when in Rome or shift or whatever, because that's not being a convict. After I got clean, started writing and figured out there's other things I can do with my life than play the prison game 24/7. I didn't care about all that stuff. Not so much. I was put in a situation with the M Block being a white rep, and that's why I did what I had to do. Anyway, have a good weekend.